What's going on, everybody? My name is Monster, and welcome to the NCL Season 3 draft breakdown for your Atlanta Star Raptors. Uh, so coming off the back of Season 2, I obviously won the championship. However, in my last breakdown, in some like my Season 2 draft breakdown, I said that I had a lot to prove coming into the season, which I did. I went 1-11 season one, and I felt like I could have played a lot better, and I felt like my team could have been a lot better. So I set out with something to prove in NCL season two, and I started off that way for sure. I started off 4-0 plus 6 or something, and then I just couldn't stop losing games. And to me, I mean, I guess for me, that's kind of unacceptable. Um, I lost 7 out of my 8 games for the remainder of the season, and I was sixth seed in the playoffs. Um, I mean, yes, I did overcome 2 or 3 bad matchups. I'll say 2 or 3 because Ben thinks he had the worst of the matchup, but I think I had the worst of the matchup, so it's just kind of up in the air as to whether or not which of us had the worst matchup or whatever. But yeah. So essentially, I want to be a dominant player. I essentially want to have records like Ben or Ian when they play in leagues. Usually, anyway. Um, and that's to come into a league and do 9-3, 10-2, 8-4. That's what I want to do. I want to have a dominant season where I look really good and stuff. And going 5-7 in season two was definitely not that. So yeah, this season I'm going to be trying much harder to win all of my games. And yeah, so I still think I have something to prove in season three because just winning 5 games in the regular season and then winning 3 in the playoff run isn't really all that impressive. I think it's more impressive to be dominant all throughout the season and win the championship, which I did not do. I was kind of like the surprise factor, I guess, in the playoff run. So, yeah, for me, I still have a chip on my shoulder, and I feel like that I have more to prove this season than I did before. So, yeah. So, first off, huge shout out to Ian for making these slides. He took time out of his busy day with work and then coming home and updating the doc and stuff to make all of these slides for everyone in the league, even people who don't upload. He made slides for them, and so yeah, great guy Ian. Love that dude to death, and that's why I'm using this because he took the time out to create it in the first place. I'm not gonna disrespect that and not use it. That's stupid. Um, so yeah, so he has the draft rules listed here for some reason. Everyone knows the draft rules. Let's be real. So we're gonna skip that. In this draft of all these team names and stuff, I was the 8th pick, which is probably the worst pick I've ever had in draft league. 8th pick is absolute trash. I got sniped a lot as a result. There are definitely some picks that I could have secured if I was on the wheel, but unfortunately I was not. So yeah, I was 8th pick. I got sniped a lot this draft, and yeah. So my first pick I debated on for a long time because I really wasn't too sure what I wanted. I was sure of the dragon that I wanted, but I wasn't too sure on anything else. And so I was looking, and at this point I had already confirmed all of the picks before me, right? So I knew exactly what everyone was picking from 1 to 7. And Ian was like, dude, Mega Mawa is going to be there. You know it's going to be there. Just take it. Mega Mawa is the most broken thing. It's going to make it to you. Just take it. And so I thought on it for a while. I debated Mega Gardevoir. I debated other offensive fairies. But in the end, I did decide on Mega Mawile. Um, Mega Mawile, I'm not too sold on Mega Mawile. It definitely hits really hard. Don't get me wrong. Hits like a truck. However, it is base 50 speed, so it's very easily revengeable. Um, And yeah, so like it hits hard. It has the coverage to support it hitting hard. It has the ability to hit it, to support it hitting as hard as it can. But the speed really hinders the Mon, in my opinion. It's not super great because of the speed. Various amounts of things will outspeed it and be able to revenge it, which is really unfortunate. Um, but yeah, I was interested in drafting Mega Mawile because it's something new that I haven't tried before, and I probably won't get to try again because it's not usually available in other leagues. So yeah, I like the pick, and the only reason I drafted this was because I was sure on the dragon that I wanted, and the dragon that I wanted, in my opinion, really synergized really well with Mawile. Unfortunately, Ben fucking sniped me on that dragon, and honestly, he cucked my entire draft. Um, because of the typings that I ended up picking up as a response to getting sniped on the dragon I wanted, um, I ended up not being able to pick other mons because they shared that typing, and it was just bad. So the dragon I wanted was Garchomp. I thought Garchomp worked really well with Mawile, um, and Ben took it round one. Uh, I was very upset about that because Mawile was the pick that was up in the air for me. I knew for sure that I wanted Garchomp coming into this draft. I said I wanted Garchomp weeks in advance, in various voice chats and in my server as well. That Ben is in, by the way. Um, but he took Garchomp anyway. He says he doesn't look at my server that often, which, I mean, given he probably doesn't, but still. Um, so yeah, I thought for sure I was going to land on Garchomp. People had already taken a bunch of dragons at this point, and unfortunately I did not get it. So a lot of dragons also went in round one coming back to me. So going down the line, a lot of dragons went, and then coming back up, a lot of dragons went. Um, so it was rough in the dragon department. So what I ended up settling on as my second pick was Salamence. So I think this synergizes the best. Like, out of all the dragons that were there, I think Salamence synergized the best with Mega Mawile. Um, and I say that because it's also times 4 weak to ice, and it also has the move pool to hit stuff that Mega Mawile can't. Um, so yeah, I've used Salamence before. I've had it in SSBL, and I had it in like the very end of NCL season 1. And I do like the mon. I don't think it's bad, but it is significantly worse than Garchomp. Garchomp gave me a lot of options, a lot of versatility, which is kind of becoming a meme. The word anyway, versatility. But Garchomp brought rocks. It brought bulk, or more bulk. It brought nice speed at 102. It brought really good offensive typing. It brought really good move pool and stuff like that. And when it got sniped from me, I was forced to take Salamence. Salamence obviously being a dragon flying type. My original electric type that I kind of had in my head. I didn't really plan too far past my first 2 picks, but in my head I really wanted to draft Thundy Eye, or Thunderous Incarnate, and because I picked Salamence, I was no longer able to do that, and having the double flying typing didn't really make a lot of sense on my team at this point. So yeah, I do like Salamence, don't get me wrong, and I'm not afraid to run special sets on the Salamence at all. I would run Dragon Dance sets, Scarf Moxie sets. I can definitely bring out all of the different sets on Mence, but it is undoubtedly like significantly worse than the actual dragon that I wanted, which was super unfortunate. And yeah, so my next pick was Rotom Wash. This was the round of waters. I ended up getting my water really early, but Suicune, the water that I wanted, was picked right before me, if I recall correctly. And that was really sad. I really wanted Suicune because I thought it worked well on the team. And then I was forced to get Rotom Wash. And this, again, I was sniped on the water that I wanted, so I picked the next best water, which was Rotom Wash. And as a result, because I now have this electric type, I don't have room for another electric type on my team. so I couldn't get a speedy electric type like something in tier 5 like Raichu or something, or tier 3 Jolteon or anything like that. Um, so I think I hurt myself again with this pick, and I do think it synergizes really well with Salamence and Mawile. Salamence and Mawile both can take the hits that Rotom doesn't want to take, and Rotom can take hits that Mence doesn't want to take, or Mawile doesn't want to take. I think it synergizes really well, and it does. It really does. But it was undoubtedly not my first pick, and now I was forced to take a dual typing that I didn't want, so I ended up having a bad electric. I mean, Rotom can slow pivot, which is fine. But in the end, I would have preferred a fast pivot, just because that's generally what people do in Draft League. I would have preferred something like Jolteon very much so. And I think like if I had drafted Vaporeon instead of Rotom, which I hadn't even considered, I would have been a lot better off. I mean, a lot better off. I would have had Wish support for Salamence and Mega Mawile. Having Wish support with that would have been phenomenal. But now I just have a Mon that doesn't even have recovery. It just has Pain Split, which is unreliable recovery. So, yeah, I do like Rotomosh. I've had it in past leagues. It's really good, but it was definitely not my first pick. And in the end, I think it hurt me a lot more than it helped me, because of the fact that I ended up having to pick an electric type with my water typing. So, yeah, and as I said, this is the round of waters. It was Suicune, then Rotom, and then like 5 other waters this round went or something. It was ridiculous. I know Melodic for sure went the pick after me, and Ben was mad about that because he wanted Melodic. And yeah, so with my next pick, I picked up Nidoqueen. I probably took this a little earlier than I really should have, but Nidoqueen really brings this team together. I have a sweeping Mon and Salamence, and I have a super hard hitting Mon in Mega Mawile. And Nidoqueen gives them nice support by setting up hazards like Stealth Rock and T-Spikes. It gives me my first real special attacker on the team. Salamence can run special sets, but it's not something that it's known for. And Rotom doesn't really run special sets because it's a bulky Mon. So Nidoqueen gives me a very nice special hitting Mon. Obviously with Sheer Force, Life Orb hits like a truck. It's a little worse than Nidoking in terms of offensive prowess, if I recall correctly, but it has more bulk, which is nice. Yeah, and the ground type and the poison type were 2 things that I was missing at this point in the draft, which I managed to fill in 1 pick. You'll notice a lot that I pick up typings that I don't have in 1 Mon. And what I mean by that is like I'm picking 2 typings that I don't have in 1 Mon, which makes sense. It does, because if you fill the holes quick enough, you can pick various other things that just seem good on the team. However, the issue with that is you end up doubling up on a lot of typings, which I unintentionally did at the end of this draft, which really sucked. I do like Nidoqueen on the team. As I said, it really brings the team together with Stealth Rocks and T-Spikes and stuff like that. I think T-Spike support on this team is going to be very, very solid. And as I said, it brings the special attacker onto the team I didn't have previously. So I do like the Nidoqueen pick. I do. So the next pick I took was my second Intimidator. I actually have 2 Intimidators right now, which I didn't even talk about. Mega Mawile pre-Mega has Intimidate, which is generally what people run. And then Salamence also has Intimidate. It's like one of its 2 main abilities, which are Intimidate and Moxie. I don't actually know if it has another ability. It probably does. But yeah, so in my next pick, I pick another Intimidate user, and that's because it was just the best fire on my team at this point, or for my team at this point, I should say. And I picked Incineroar. So Incineroar gives me really nice priority with Fake Out, and it gives me another slow pivot. So slow pivot is kind of something you're going to see a trend of. Because I picked Rotom Wash, I kind of had to commit to having a Volt Turn Core that was slow so that I could support Mega Mawile a bit better and get it in for free. Which is kind of key with the Mon because it's so slow. So I picked Incineroar for the slow pivot, and for the typing as well. I needed a fire type, needed a dark type, 2 typings that I didn't have previously again. And it's a very bulky Mon. I play VGC extensively. I played a lot in VGC 17. I've kind of dabbled in it in VGC 19. I kind of took all of VGC 18 off. But Incineroar, very, very good in VGC. And I think it's just as good in Draft League. It's tier 3 in Draft League, so it's not as good as it is in doubles, but I think it's a really good mon. And I think it's going to support the team really well again with the slow pivot. That's kind of the idea of why it's there. And it also filled the typings I didn't have previously. So, yeah, I think it's going to help out a lot. So with my next pick, I picked Uxie. Now, sorry. If I cough at any point throughout this video, I don't really mean to. I just have a cough, and I've had a cough for like a month. Yeah, so with this pick, the idea again was slow pivot. Again was bulk. With my last 3 picks, I've picked bulk, Nidoqueen, Incineroar, and now Uxie. It was a typing that I didn't have, which was Psychic. So now I have a Dark and Psychic for my Psychic Dark Fighting Core. And it gives me a ground immunity, which is really good because as you notice on this team, I have 3 Mons weak to ground, and I have 3 ground immunities. And that sounds super weird, and it really does. I mean, it's super weird, in my opinion, to have that. But yeah, so Uxie is another ground immunity, which helps my ground weaknesses that I've already developed. And it gives me another slow pivot option. So now I have 1 slow Volt turn, or 1 slow Volt Switcher, and 2 slow U-turners, which is kind of the idea for Mega Mawile. And then it also gives me the ability to Trick Room, which is going to help out a lot for Mega Mawile. Just having the option of running Trick Room will force people to prep for Trick Room Mega Mawile. Because most people, draft Mega Mawile, and they drafted, just Mega Mawile, and then they build around it, but they don't build around it with Trick Room. And now that I have Trick Room with Mega Mawile, they'll have to prep for Trick Room. And most people would see Uxie and not assume that Trick Room is coming, but since I have Mons that can abuse it with Mega Mawile, people are definitely going to have to prep for it, which is really good because then I can. If they bring a bunch of slow stuff, it'll make like Nidoqueen's job easier, Salamance's job easier, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's gonna help the team out a lot. I think it gives Mega Mawile some pretty nice support for sure. So my next pick, I take Virizion. A bunch of grasses had gone at this point. Like all of the good grasses had gone at this point, and I needed the grass type to finish my Firewater Grass Core. And I also needed a fighting type to finish my Psychic Dark Fighting Core, so I just picked Virizion. The main thing with Virizion, too, because as you notice on my team, I have my lower speed tiers filled out really well. I don't particularly remember the speed tiers. I'm kind of just going off of what Ian said, but he said that my bottom speed tiers were all slotted very nicely, but Salamence was the fastest thing on the team at base 100, which is very, very bad. So I picked Virizion to try and fix that, and I accomplished multiple things at once. I got my grass type, I got my fighting type, and I got the speed tier, which is 108. Generally, the way you want to do speed tiers is by 10. So if Salamence was at 100, which is what you want to go up to 110, and then you want to go up again to 120. So Virizion doesn't quite get to 110, but it's close enough. And yeah, so that's why it's on the team. Really, like realistically speaking, that's why it's on the team. I don't have fantastic Scarfers on this team outside of Salamence, so this gives me another good Scarfer that I could potentially bring. It gives me a really good Z user that I could potentially bring as well, along with Salamence and like Nidoqueen maybe. And yeah, another thing with this team too, it is very physically offensive, and there's really not much I can do about that. The picks that are remaining are just slim pickings. There's not a lot of good stuff left, and it is quite unfortunate. But I think Virizion was like the best pick I could have made for my team for sure. So my next pick, I take Weavile. This might seem weird. So this is where the kind of doubling up on typing starts to kind of come in. So now I have 2 dark types. I do have ways to deal with fighting types, so like Nidoqueen, Salamence, and Uxie and stuff like that. So I'm not too concerned about doubling up on the dark type per se, but this gives me an ice type, which I didn't previously have, and this gives me something above the base 120 speed tier, which is kind of why it's there. It gives me more priority with Ice Shard, and it just brings a lot of offensive prowess to the team. Again, it's a physically offensive mon, so I don't have a lot of special attacking on the team. But breaking the speed tier was what was important here, and there was absolutely nothing left on the board that I could possibly take that broke the speed tier, other than Weavile, that actually fit my team. So I was kind of forced into Weavile, just like I was kind of forced into Virizion for the speed tier and the typing. So yeah, I do like Weavile though. I think it's a cool mod, and I'm really looking forward to using it. I've kind of wanted to draft Weavile for a bit now. So my next pick, I take Armaldo. You might think that's kind of weird. So this also accomplishes many things in one pick. It gives me a rapid spinner. This is my first rapid spinner. This gives me my first bug type, my first rock type, which is really solid there. So at this point in the draft, the only typings that I'm missing are normal and ghost. And yeah, so my removal options are actually very poor. I only have, I have Defog Mints, which is never going to happen. I have Defog Rotom Wash, and I have Armaldo, and that's it. However, I do think Armaldo is going to be really nice for the team. It gives me another rocker, along with Nidoqueen and Uxie. And you can count Mega Mawile, but I'm never running rocks on Mega Mawile. And it gives me yet another physically offensive mon. But it also has some pretty decent bulk, in my opinion, so I think it'll be really good for the team with spin support. That's pretty much why it's there, spin support and typings I didn't have. So, yeah. In my next pick, I picked a Hitmontop. Now, this is where the team really starts to fall apart, in my opinion. I think I filled a lot of holes very quickly, which I really shouldn't have done. I mean, that sounds weird because you do want to fill holes as quickly as possible, but I ended up doing it with multiple picks left over. So that really kind of screwed over my last few picks because I had to double up on typings, because the only other normal type that would have worked on my team was Snorlax, and then the options for ghost types were extremely poor. It was like Dusclops and Dusknoir, and that was it in terms of what I could pick, given my free picks. And so I was forced out of a normal type because Snorlax was gone, and I was forced out of ghost types because the other ghost types were absolute garbage. And so I was essentially forced to free pick things that doubled up on typings with my team. And I really dislike doing this. I think my team really falls apart because of the fact that I had to do this. So I picked Hitmontop because of the fact that it gets rapid spin, because I have shitty removal. And I mean, straight up, I have terrible fucking removal. I have Rotom Wash, Armaldo, and Hitmontop, and that's it. And another issue with Hitmontop is it brings another Intimidate user to the team. So I now have 4 Intimidate mons, which in my opinion it can be good. You know, there could be times where I need to intimidate something, and I'll have plenty of options to do that. However, my opponents are going to have the option to bring Adrenaline Orbs against me to get speed boosts, which is just not something that I particularly want to deal with because my team is already so slow. So yeah, like most of my team is slow outside of like Weavile, Virizion, and I guess Salamence. My whole team is slow. So anything getting a speed boost is pretty bad. And yeah, so I like Hitmontop. It it gives me another removal option. And but at the end of the day, it's not a pick that I wanted to make. It was a pick that I absolutely had to make, which is unfortunate. And then with my next pick, I make it even worse, and I pick Roserade. So at this point, I need another special attacker, and the options were, again, just very slim. I had enough points for tier 3. So looking through tier 3, the options were like Espeon, Roserade, and something else that was basically irrelevant. So it was really just down between Espeon and Roserade. And I didn't really care for the extra psychic typing. Plus, I don't really enjoy Espeon because I had it in NCL Season 1 and it was pretty bad. And so I picked Roserade. But like another reason that I picked Roserade was mainly for the spikes. So now I have spikes on the team, which will really help out Mawile. and Salamence and stuff like that, and Weavile. So I think the spike support looks good on the team, but however, again, I double up on multiple typings. I double up on grass, and now I double up on poison as well. So just to list off the doubled up typings that I have, I've doubled up on fighting, and I've doubled up on grass, and I've doubled up on poison, and I've doubled up on dark, which is just, I mean, that just, coming out of my mouth, that sounds like complete and utter garbage. I really dislike the fact that I had to double up on so many typings at the end of the draft because I was forced into stuff like Rotom Wash, where I could have taken a bulky water and then picked a speedy electric and just separated the picks. That way I wouldn't have to double up on typings later in the draft, which I ended up having to do. Rotom Wash was kind of my own mistake, but Salamence for sure was just, I mean, if I'd gotten Garchomp, I wouldn't have needed Nidoqueen, and I could have picked a Roserade, and then I could have picked Thundy Eye with it as well, and I could have just drafted other ice resists like Incineroar, for example, if I really needed Incineroar and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just, I think the team looks good on paper, but then when you really start to dial in on the fact that I have so many doubled up typings, it starts to show a bunch of glaring weaknesses. Like if you bring Psychic Spam against my team, what do I don't have very many answers for that, you know, because I have doubled up poison types, I have 2 fighting types and stuff like that. And then like ground looks phenomenal against my team. Even though I have so many immunities to it, everything else just dies to ground type attacks, and it's rough, you know. Because Armaldo's neutral with Bug and Rock, Roserade is neutral with Grass and Poison and stuff like that. So yeah, like I like the team I drafted in terms of Mega Mawile and like Weavile. I think they're cool picks. Nidoqueen and Incineroar are good picks. Uxie with the Trick Room support, that's going to be really fun to play with. But Salamence and Rotom Wash, I really did not want to pick. Or Salamence I didn't want to pick. Rotom Wash was a mistake in picking that I cannot rectify at this point. Because if I tried to do free agents, I'd have to have more than 3 free agents in order to fix all the typings and stuff. And yeah, so do I think this team will carry me to another championship? Maybe. I think it has a decent amount of threats, and has a decent amount of support to help those threats. But at the end of the day, I feel like it has a lot of glaring weaknesses that it's going to be very hard to deal with. So yeah, this draft went very poorly for me, or in my opinion, it went very poorly for me. And I think 8th pick had a lot to do with that, because coming up and down, I was just getting sniped on a lot of stuff that I could have picked on the wheel. Like if I was on the wheel and Mega Mawile fell to me at like 16, I could have picked Mega Mawile, Garchomp, and I wouldn't have had to draft Salamence, and I could have drafted Thundy Incarnate or something like that, you know. And just, you know, various amount of things, but I think 8th pick really fucked me over, which is kind of unfortunate. But am I mad about getting 8th pick? Not really. Because I am, you know, I'm sure most people are going to be like, oh, you're the champion, why didn't you just get first pick? I don't personally agree with champions getting first pick, especially if you're bringing new coaches into the league, which we did this season. We expanded to 16 coaches, and we had to replace 2 coaches, so 6 new coaches ended up coming into the league. And I feel like if you give people draft picks based on the previous season's performance, then the new coaches kind of just get fucked over. Because of the fact that like they didn't play last season, so they kind of get shafted with all the bad picks, because all the people who played really well got to pick their own draft picks, and now, you know, only the middle picks are left, so the new coaches just get shafted about it. And I don't like that personally. I'm a very big advocate of the fact that you should randomize the draft order and just go from there. And I was just unluckily placed in 8th pick, which I think really fucked me over in the draft. I'm not mad about getting 8th pick again because of what I just said. You know, I am a fan of randomizing the order, but I do think it fucked me over this draft a lot. So yeah, that's my team. I'm going to obviously I'm going to try my best to win all my games, but I feel like the team is going to hurt, or it's at some point someone's going to exploit the weaknesses on the team, and it's going to feel like trash. But I'm definitely going to try my hardest for sure. I definitely want to be a dominant coach in the league. I want to be known as a top coach in the league, kind of like Ian, Ben, Cade, and Phil are. I want to be up there with them, and I want to earn my spot to do that. And I think that this season is the season to do it, and hopefully this team can carry me there. I don't actually know if there are any more slides. There's not. Yeah, so that's my team. I hope you guys like it. I can actually go over the nicknames that I remember. Or actually, I can just look it up on my phone if you guys are curious about the nicknames. Um, because I like to I like to name mons after friends, which is that's just generally what I do. So Mega Mawile is going to be named after Tiffany. Salamence is going to be named after Ace. Rotom Wash is going to be named after Dom. Uniqueen is going to be named after Evan, which is a friend from mutual Draft League servers. Incineroar is going to be named after Magic. However, I'm going to call it Joey just to fuck with Magic. Virizion is going to be named after Nacho. Armaldo is going to be named after Ben. Uxie is going to be named after Ian, which is kind of a weird pick. Weavile is going to be named after Cade. I had absolutely no fucking surprise about that. Hitmontop I kind of gave to Jed because he didn't claim anything, and Hitmontop was the last thing there. And Roserade I'm not actually naming after anyone. I'm going to name it Toxica as a reference to Power Rangers Wild Force. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I don't know if I have like a really monotone voice. That's not what I was kind of going for, but it is like 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm trying not to be too loud or anything like that. So yeah, I really do hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hopefully you guys like the team. Let me know what you think about the team in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Follow that Twitter link that you see on the screen right now, NCL Draft League, for updates on the league. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Have a nice day.